Hello YouTube, this is Asatsu5, and this is going to be some thought experiments about gun control. And if you watch my channel, you know that I'm a fan of thought experiments. Whether it be time travel or self-defense with a knife, I like thinking about these things to make sense of different points of view or perspective. So what kind of spawned this ideal was I watched a video of some of the Florida shooting survivors on Bill Maher, and it was really quite disturbing how they conducted themselves. They claim that they're experts because they survived the mass shooting, and they were saying that they know more than I do or anybody else. And what I'd like to propose is they don't know nearly as much as they think they do. And if they believe that them surviving a mass shooting at a public school gives them expert knowledge, then what do all veterans, police officers, people serving overseas right now, what expert level do they have? And the majority of those people are pro Second Amendment. So that's the first thought experiment. If there are experts because they survived a gun violent act or gun violence at a school, what kind of experts do we have who survive shootings for their job? Their job is to take out people, to survive, go home, and to serve their country. I'm willing to bet that Marines, U.S. Army, hey, even the Coast Guard and Air Force were much more informed than these 17-year-old students. Second thought experiment. Well, before I get to the next thought experiment, I'm personally on the train of thought, if you can't tell the difference between an assault rifle and an MSR, and something just popped up on my screen, let's exit that out. But if you can't tell me the difference between an assault rifle and a MSR, then you're not qualified to talk about gun control, in my opinion. Because a lot of people are making a big stink about assault weapons, all these assault weapons being out in the public. Any 18-year-old can go buy an assault weapon. That's not really true. What people are referring to are MSRs. MSRs are single or semi-auto rifles that may look scary. They have the polymer foregrips. They have the magazines, the what do the liberals call it? Extended magazines, high-capacity magazines, that's what they call it. But they have the high-capacity magazines, they have detachable magazines, and they have tactical-looking stuff on them, but they're not true assault rifles. Assault rifles have the ability to go fully auto, and those are heavily controlled. It's somewhat difficult to get them. I mean, if you have the money and the patience, you can get a fully auto gun. You can get a SBR. So assault weapons are legal to own and use. They're just very inconvenient to get. What is an MSR? MSR is basically AK-47, AR-15, or any tactical type gun that's semi-auto. It's a modern sporting rifle. They're used for hunting. They're used for competition. They're used for self-defense. If you're defending yourself in your own home, most places won't let you walk around with them, but you can use an MSR to defend your house in most places that allow MSRs. Like if I wanted to use my AK-47 and defend the homestead, I can do that, along with AR-15s, FAILs, SKSs, any of those guns, I can legally own and buy, and I can hunt with them. Like, I've hunted with my AK-47. Never shot anything, but it's my AK-47. I got it during the Bill Clinton's assault weapon ban. You know why I got it during the assault weapon ban? Because it was not an assault rifle. It was a Sega AK-47. It doesn't have the pistol grip, which I prefer not having the pistol grip. It's only supposed to use 5 or 10 round magazines, but I put 40 round magazines in it all the time when I shoot it. slightly some modifications that I did on it, but yeah, it can take 40 round magazines. But it's an MSR, it's not an assault rifle. So if you don't know the difference between an assault rifle and an MSR and realize that these heinous acts were committed with a MSR, not an assault rifle, you're not really qualified to talk about this. You're not the expert that you're putting yourself out to be. Second thought experiment. You say that I don't need an assault rifle or MSR. You don't know the difference, but you say I don't need a AR-15 or AK-47 or SKS. I don't need a MP5. I don't need any of these scary black guns or slightly older wooden guns with high-capacity magazines. You say I don't need that. Therefore, I don't need it. I shouldn't have it. Well, I say I might not need it. I might not ever need an AR-15 to defend my house. Hopefully I will never need an AR-15 to defend my house or to defend my life. But it is my right to own one. It is my right to own an AK-47. It's guaranteed in the Second Amendment that it shall not be infringed, that I can own firearms. And not just the politically correct ones, but some that are politically incorrect. It is my right. And this is a thought experiment that my coworker proposed, and that is with Rosa Parks. She did not need to sit in the front of the bus. There was no reason why she needed to sit in the front of the bus. And don't call me a racist yet, but just bear with me. She could have very easily sat in the back of the bus and everybody would have been happy. Well, she might not have been that happy, but everybody, there would be no police involved, no one would be arrested, there would be no big stink about it. But you know what? It is her right to sit in the front of the bus. Just as it's her right to sit in the front of the bus, it's also her right to own an AR-15, AK-47, MP5, SKS, any military-style gun. It is her right to sit in the front of the bus. It's her right to own those firearms, just like it's my right to own those firearms. That's that one was very illuminating to me. I really enjoyed that one. Let's see if I can think of any more of them off the top of my head. Oh, here's one. If we listen to these kids who really don't know what they're talking about, and we decide that we don't need MSRs, we don't need AR-15s, we don't need AK-47s, we don't need MP5s. I don't know the civilian designation for that. I think there was a GSS or something like that. But I'm going to say MP5 just for sake of argument, which is not an assault rifle. It's a subgun or military or pistol caliber carbine. But let's say they pass laws saying you don't need this, and then they take that away, and then something bad happens with, you know, a Mossberg 500 or a Remington 870, and they're like, oh, you don't need that, you just need single shots. And they keep whittling it away until we don't have the Second Amendment. Well, if you can easily get rid of the Second Amendment, how much easier would it be to get rid of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, no search and seizure without a probable cause or without a warrant? If you can get rid of the Second Amendment, how easy would it be to get rid of the other amendments that the liberals really do care about? So I'm not for picking and choosing which amendments to keep and get rid of. I believe that they're all valid and that they all serve a purpose. And the Second Amendment, although I think this is kind of on the borderline of fantasy, it's to protect you against a tyrannical dictatorship. It's to protect you against the government. That's what it's for. The Second Amendment wasn't made to hunt squirrels or deer. The Second Amendment is founded or was designed to use against other people, people who wish to do you harm, whether that harm is coming from a mugging or a home invasion, or if it's coming from the government. And that's what the Second Amendment's about. So, in a way, yes, we do need MSRs. We do need these high-capacity magazines and stuff. And when I say need, I own an AK-47. I have hundreds of rounds for it. I have 30-round magazines for it. Hopefully, I will never need it for that purpose, and I would be very devastated if I had to use it to defend my life. As if with any gun, my carry piece, my 25, if I had to use my gun to defend myself, I would not be in a good place. I don't want that to happen. I don't want to have to make that decision. So, in an ideal world, I would not need any of that stuff. But we don't live in an ideal world. The facts are Chicago, California have very high crime rates and very high murder rates. People often point at Australia and saying, well, their gun control policies are leading to a safer community, which is not true. Their crime was on the decline before they put those gun control policies into effect. But any of those who point at Australia to use that as an example, I'd like to use the example of Switzerland. In Switzerland, it is law that every household is to have a firearm. Well, every male that lives in Switzerland has to own a firearm. They have to join the military, and they take their issue piece home with them, and they have to have it. And they even have government-funded shooting days where the government provides ammunition and everybody just goes shooting. We never hear about a lot of murder in Switzerland, do we? Because every household has a gun. 50% of the population owns a gun. And not just politically correct hunting guns. They own military guns, the guns that they were issued. So that's it. Just to recap, just because you survived something that was terrible, heinous, and should have never have happened does not make you an expert on firearms. And if that was true, then those people who are better experts than you, who actually survived some real stuff, Not that wasn't real, I didn't mean it to come back that way, but those people whose job it is to fight wars, to make raids on drug lords and gangs and stuff. Those people, their job is to actually arrest or to destroy bad people, stop the threat. And if it is just as much of my right to own a MSR as it is Rosa Parks' right to sit in the front of the bus. We have the same rights. Rosa Parks can sit in the front of the bus. Rosa Parks can own a MSR. I can sit in the front of the bus. I can own a MSR. That's the end of the discussion. So that's it. I'm a Satsu 5, and I'm out.